Last week's 1.4 liter GM turbo engine got a ton of responses, way more comments than usual, and almost all of them said yes, they really are that bad. So I figured I'd continue this trend of notoriously problematic front-wheel drive GM engines, and I bring you a 2.4 liter direct injected Ecotec engine, the LEA. Now last week's teardown and this week's teardown are courtesy of Premier Automotive in East Alton, Illinois. This is not an engine I would normally have in the shop. I typically don't buy vehicles with Ecotecs in them unless it's like a Saturn Redline or a Cobalt SS. Those are pretty much the only things on my radar. But nevertheless, these are very in-demand engines. A lot of people need these engines, and there's a lot of reasons why. This engine I have a story with. It came from a 2012 GMC Terrain that was run low on oil. Now, you guys that work on these engines for a living already know what happened here. Unlike other engines that I tear down that ran low on oil, these engines like to jump time when they run low on oil. So there might be a little bit of carnage in here. I don't expect crazy stuff, but I do expect to find some damage. Somewhere around 2010, the Ecotec engines became direct injected, and I feel like that's when most of the problem started. The 2.4 liter makes about 180 horsepower, and I don't know what the earlier ones make, but I don't think it's that much less. These engines are notorious for burning oil, and very few people keep up with them, which is why they're so problematic. In fact, this engine's already been replaced once. It has heat tabs on it on the front and the back, which tells me that that 2012 Terrain is already on its third engine, at least. It's at least had 3 engines put in it, which is pretty scary. That's another reason I don't buy these from the auction. Now, GM treated these engines like Frank's Red Hot sauce. They literally put them in everything. You guys know how this works. The first thing we're going to do is pull the plugs. Well, that one doesn't have one in there. So we got 3 out of 4. These plugs all look pretty decent. They're not heavily worn. They all look about the same. No malice yet. All right, we're going to turn this engine over. At least we're going to try to. Maybe it's just a few teeth off. That didn't sound good. That does not sound good. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on here. All right, now I'm watching on the screen on my camera as well. Those ain't moving. Or are they? Nope. So we have a failure to communicate between the crankshaft and the camshafts. That's bad. Well, let's peel this valve cover off and see what the heck's going on inside this thing. Did I miss a bolt? Oh yeah, there's one down in there. You can tell I don't work on these things. Okay, I got that bolt out, so what gives? There we go.
Oh no!
That's not good. Well, oh man. That's wrecked in there. Well, it looks like Wreck-It Ralph's been inside the valve train here. It has no surviving rockers. They're all bent and broken. Oh, there's needle bearings everywhere. Wow. I can't believe the amount of damage done. Now, the exhaust side is actually... Nope, that's bad too. There's 1, 2, 3, 4... There's 4 rockers in place. Everything else is not where it's supposed to be. And you can tell by the sheen inside of this valve cover that this engine was not very well looked after. You can see... Look at all the deleted rocker arms. Oh, that one's there. We got 4. The question is that did it bend valves? I bet it did. Yeah, look at all that. It's pretty awesome. The chain, I don't know if that's a lot of slack or not. So this moves a lot without engaging the cam. I don't know if that's, oh, okay. So that's how that works. So we can just delete the chain right now. Yeah, look at that. Now the cams kind of spin. First thing we're gonna do is pull the housing for the high pressure fuel pump. Or we'll whack it with a mallet. I don't think that did anything, but it might. Oh, it did stuff, yep. Yeah, you can see that gap opening up. All right, there's the cam that drives this piston. It's actually kind of a lifter. It's got a roller on it. It doesn't feel that good. And then this pushes on the pump bolts right here. These cam cap bolts crack loose. Oh, maybe I can't get this out. Oh, I can get this out. Nope, it looks like I'm going to have to hit this with the impact. Well, I should have realized that before I pulled the cam caps off, but I think it'll be okay. Oh, it's shooting parts everywhere. It's fine. It's just a rocker graveyard in here. I got one hanging on right here. Oh, I take that back. None of them hung on. They're all broken. Bent, smashed. There's a bunch of needle bearings that came out of one. We're gonna get to the exhaust side, and you got 4 hanging on this side, and then a whole bunch. Well, actually, there's one just kind of. I don't know how that got in there. Cam probably puts it in there. Hey, that ain't bad. So we're still down a rocker. It must have. Oh, you know what? Look, there's 3 over here. So it launched a rocker from this side to the other side. It was like playing Red Rover with rockers. And the cam journals, they're not as bad as we've seen on this channel. We've definitely seen worse for oil starvation. I don't think that's the first thing to see signs of it. However, that lobe got in a fight with one of the rockers. I bet you there's some damage if we look hard. There'll be other marks on the lobes from fighting. Yeah, look at that. Look at that lobe. It's like shaved down. This was something else I noticed. It looks like a piece of timing guide. If you look in the timing section of the head, you'll see more of it. Is that from the bridge guide? Because this guide doesn't look terrible. Now we're going to pull a few of the 10mm bolts that hold the head to the block at the front. Well, that one's in the way. What the? What the heck? Well, that's not good. Who did this? Why was that the answer? External torques. Well, that would be why that bolt didn't come out. And I couldn't tell because of the amount of sludge on it. In order to get the timing guide out of the way, I have to pull this, and hopefully that timing guide will slide out of the way. Wow, that's tight. Oh, I see. There's a bolt behind it. So this is just a plug. And there is a yes size. What size is that? It fell down in the crankcase. It's fine. Okay, got 2 more bolts left, they're E12s. Now let's get the head bolts broken loose. I have no idea how tight these are going to be. This is either going to be easy or not bad. All right, this head should just lift right off. Oh, fighting with the timing chain guide. Oh yeah. Oh, that's bad. No, I didn't think it'd have any disconnecting rods, but there certainly are signs of damage in here. Well, you can definitely see there's some piston to valve contact. Look at the top of the valve release there. And there's marks, piston here, and that's in every single cylinder. Some worse than others, but yes, I bet you we're going to see some bent valves. Well, first let's pour the rockers out of this thing. Yeah, I can read the Facebook ad now. Just needs a valve job. Mechanics dream. Let me tell you, mechanics don't dream of fixing things like this. I think every one of these valves is bent. All 16 valves are bent. Now these valves here aren't as bent, but it doesn't matter if it's bent a little or bent a lot. It's bad. It needs valves. This one's the worst. At least I think that's the worst. I don't know. Here's more of the broken rockers. Well, there's a few that survived. One, 2. All right, let's get this crank pulley off. Well, this puller is just a hair too small for the bolt pattern on this, so we just made it work. And you know what? It's gonna be fine. I don't know why this puller is in such bad shape. I didn't even need that. What did I do that for? Well, I'm not sure if I can pull the timing cover with the oil pan on. There might be some weird pickup. But we're going to just take all the bolts out and see what happens. Now there's a bolt there. I bet you that cover can stay on there. But let's get that big bolt out first. Oh yeah, that wasn't going to happen. Let's have it stuck in the dowel over here. That's exactly what I wanted to have happen. That's it right there. So the oil pump is built into the timing cover. That is the most bolts I've pulled out of an oil pump. Will it come out? I don't see a ton of damage. Actually looks pretty good. Just a few grooves. Nothing really worth showing or mentioning. Here's the main chain. I didn't realize there was so much stuff in here. It looks like it's got a balance shaft on both sides. Okay, so there's the main chain that drives the cams. Can we get this out? Try taking this out. There, now that can come off. I don't think that's supposed to go that way. What are you doing? I'll lay that guide there. I'll get out of the oil pan. And the chain's out. Cool. Now, that's a nice looking chain. And there's the water pump. Balance shaft, and then everything else. So let's get all these little guys out of here. So there's an oil pressure fed timing chain tensioner. So I don't really see any issues with any of these guides. They all look pretty decent. Keep in mind we found pieces of a guide. Come back here. Okay, do you think we can get these out, I wonder? We're just going to keep unbolting stuff. Did these just come out? I doubt that. Seriously have doubts about that. That doesn't mean we can't pry on them. Oh yeah, they do come out. Sweet. There's one balance shaft. And there's two balance shafts. That is pretty dark and dingy in here. Now this is something I did want to look at, and that is the crank gear. I don't see any issues there. Oh, here we go. There's a needle bearing hanging out right here out of one of the rockers. Uh-oh. There's another piece of guide. Oh, I see more stuff down in the oil pan. Now let's turn this thing upside down. And I'm sure we're going to make a mess. Oh, can't forget those. Which way will make the least mess? Nope, let's go this way. Oh, wait, these got... Nope. I don't know which way to go. Oh, not too bad. All right, let's pull this oil pan. This looks like it's just sealed on with RTV, which means this is going to be a lot of fun. That wasn't easy. Nope. There's not much to... Oh, yep, there's something to see in here. Let's move this to the bench so we can pull the baffle out. Right off the bat, I can see some chunks of guide here in the pan. Just little ones there. Okay. Well, there's more chunks of guide in here. Now, let's see if we can get this pickup. I want to see what the inside of that looks like. Well, the pickup has a little bit of junk, but it's not blocked at all. So I don't think it was that guide that stopped that up. All right, last week's teardown, that engine had a bed plate, and this week's teardown, we're going to pull the bed plate off first, and then we'll get the rods and pistons out. It just makes things go a lot smoother. Okay, let's see how much this fights us. I don't really see... Oh, there's a place to pry right here. Thank you, GM. Ooh, butterfingers. Oh, let go. All right, now we have a great look at the crank. It does move pretty well. So we just have to break loose 8 rod bolts, get the crank out, get the rods and pistons out. Oh, we got to start at the front. Now this should just pluck right out. Let's see if these just slide right on out. No, they do not. They need a little assistance from Old Blue. Well, to my surprise, the bearings all look pretty good. A little bit of wear there, but it's really not bad. It's not like this thing was hammering or doing anything weird. And the crank looks really nice. All the journals are good. The main bearings also look good, but you know, we expected that. If the rod bearings are good, usually the mains are as well. There's the other side of the mains. The pistons all have marks from valves, and they are varying in how bad they are. Some are much worse than others. One thing I would like to talk about are the oil control rings. They are rather small. They are very small. And I bet you that's probably why it burns oil, or at least a contributing factor. And for comparison, here is an LS piston. And you can see that oil ring, the oil rings are much more substantial. I get it, it's a lot bigger engine, but they both do the same job, right? I bet you these are low tension rings used to try to improve the fuel efficiency of these cars. But that comes at a cost. I gave these bores a little brake clean bath, and they're not awful, but they're not great either. There is some significant wear. They're not like torn up from damage, but they do look worn. There's areas where you can't see the cross hatching anymore, and then of course there's areas where you can. There's a little bit of rust at the top of that one. It's probably from this engine sitting around. I think what happens to these engines is when they run low on oil, oil pressure drops, and that timing chain tensioner is fed by oil pressure. So if the pressure drops, the tensioner loses its pressure on the guides and the tensioning part of the guide, and it can jump time. And that's what happened here. It jumped enough time to bend every single valve and destroy almost all of the rockers. It was pretty cool. It's the first time we've had a failure like that on the channel, and we've torn down a lot of engines, like 70-something engines, one a week. So if there's an engine that you would like to see, I may have already done it. I've done Viper engines, I did a rotary, I've done several Cummins, I did a Duramax. That was probably the hardest one. Plenty of videos for you guys to watch if you're just joining this channel. If you'd like to buy parts off of this engine or any of the other engines I've torn down or this Panamera, I'm going to leave our email in the video description. And as always, I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all. And I'll catch you on the next one.